Hey, and welcome to the Melanin Wellness Podcast, the official place for all things living well. These candid, coffee with your best girlfriend style conversations surrounding the 8 dimensions of wellness will enlighten and enhance how you view wellness in your daily life. You never know how this conversation will play out. You might laugh, you might even cry, but you will definitely have a good time. I'm your host, Karina Dunn. Now sit back, grab your favorite drink, pen and paper, and let's talk about living well. Hello, Melanin Wellness Podcast family, and thank you for joining me for yet another episode of the Melanin Wellness Podcast, y'all. Listen, so last week we had some technical difficulties, so a show did not air. However, we are back this week, and I've got some new content for you. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to catch you up on all the things that have been going on, and then we're going to hop into a topic. All right, sound good? Cool. But before we hop into this episode, you know that I never ever start an episode without giving a 30 seconds of gratitude. So let me go ahead and get started. Today I am so grateful because it is my born day. I am so grateful to be here and to have been allowed to take yet another trip around the sun. So I'm so grateful to be here yet another year. I am so grateful for dreams and ambitions. I have so many of those, and I believe that this year will be the year that those dreams come true. And I'm also grateful for change, because although change is not always welcome, change is usually good because there's always something there that you can take from the situation. Now, that may or may not have been more than 30 seconds, but I say give as much gratitude as you like, because you can never be grateful enough, because when you're operating from a space of gratitude, it's impossible for negativity to live in the same space at the same time. Now let's get to it. So a quick update. We are going into week 5 of my recovery, and it's been an interesting journey. I'll say that. There are some things that I really wish I would have known about prior to having the surgery, but I guess maybe everybody's different. I don't know. But I'm going to share with you a few of the things that I wish somebody would have told me before having this surgery. So number 1, I wish somebody would have told me about the fact that the area beneath where the battery pack is installed can go numb and is very weak and can give out on you at any given second, because I was watching over my granddaughter briefly, and we were in the living room, and she had asked me to turn on some cartoons, and I had gotten up from where I was sitting to get the remote and to change the channel to the cartoon that she was requesting, and all of a sudden my left leg gave out. And it was super scary because there was nobody here besides the two of us. And, she ran over and she says, "Grandma, you fell. Are you okay?" And she began with her tiny little hands trying to help lift me up off the floor, which we all know was not going to happen. But I have to give her an A for effort, because she was so concerned. The weakness and the numbness, it didn't last long. It was momentary, but it was very scary, because, if I'd been carrying something hot or something sharp and she was around, she could have gotten hurt. And so I wish someone would have told me about that. That would have been a little nice little tidbit to be aware of. I would have definitely appreciated that backup. All right, that heads up. Another thing that I wish someone would have told me was about the pain and discomfort that you would experience from being so stiff. Most of you know that I am an avid yogi. In fact, I am a yoga instructor, and I specialize in therapeutic yoga, which helps people heal from injuries and surgeries and illnesses and things of that nature. And I have not obviously been able to practice since I had the surgery because there are limitations and you're unable to stretch, you're unable to put your hands over top of your head and these things. So I can't do these things until the healing period has gone past. Now, full disclosure, I am healing at a very rapid rate. However, out of an abundance of caution, I am taking my time and allowing myself the full 8 weeks to just really relax and take my time and move back into everything slowly. It may even go up to 12 weeks, just depending on how my body feels once I begin to move again at that level. But that the pain that you feel from the stiffness of it is it's something that's very different, and it's something that's makes it quite difficult for me to get comfortable, and so, I suspected that would happen, but I did not. I guess I wasn't prepared quite as much for it. I just remember my doctor saying, "You're young, you're very healthy, you'll heal fine." But I wish he'd gave me a heads up about that. That would have been great to have. So, number 3, I wish someone would have given me the heads up about the post-surgery fatigue. Now, I've had surgical procedures before, and so I do know that, when you have a major surgical procedure or a major illness or a major injury, your body's red blood count increases exponentially because your body needs to heal itself. And so while your red blood cells are busy healing you, you're going to feel extremely tired. And I can be moving along about my business thinking, hey, I've got some energy here, I'm going to do XYZ, and all of a sudden it's almost like someone has taken the plug out, and I don't know if you've ever seen sand run through a hourglass, except a broken hourglass, and it's just seeping through at an alarmingly quick rate. And that's what has happened to me several times, and it's tough to deal with, because when I feel that wall come, and I've gotten to the point where I can feel it when it's about to happen, I have got to get somewhere where I can safely sit and just allow myself to rest. Eating does help, because the body it's burning so much energy when it's healing itself. So I eat a lot, and I know I've gained some weight. I want to say at this point I've probably put on about 10 pounds, and I'm okay with it. It is what it is. It's a part of the process, so I'm not stressing too much about it. However, the sleeping part is the part that's difficult for me, because I have a tough time sleeping during the day. And so while I am on leave and trying to heal, getting the proper amount of sleep has been difficult. And even when I sleep, it's one of those things that this type of fatigue, it doesn't matter how much sleep you get, you're still going to feel it. And so I just have to do the best that I absolutely can in order to, give my body the grace that it needs in order to heal itself. However, I am very, very grateful that my body is doing its job. If you take care of your body will take care of you. And so I'm super grateful that my body is healing so rapidly and it is doing its job. Also, another thing that I've experienced has been some brain fog. I know that I have struggled with remembering things, and normally that's not me. I'm usually a very orderly person. I am very calculated in my thoughts, and I have to-do lists and planners for absolutely everything. And I have just been in a space of forgetfulness and just not myself. I have not been myself. And I am hoping that once we are through this period, that things will begin to return to normal relatively quickly. I am giving it some time. Again, trying to give myself some grace. So I'm hoping at around the 6-week mark, a lot of these symptoms will begin to alleviate, right? Hopefully. I guess we'll see. Let's see, what else is there to share? I'm trying to think of what else. There was something else that I wanted to share with you all before we got into the topic of change and the courage to do so, the courage to change. I have been in a space where my life has changed completely, and my life will never be the same. And there are more changes that are coming in my life that is going to change everything for me. And recognizing that it's time to change and it's time to pivot can be difficult. So we're going to touch a little bit on that, and how change can be good, and how some people okay. Y'all, listen, I am sitting here in my little podcast area, right? And I don't know what happened, but I had a set of ribbon that I was working on a project earlier today, and all of a sudden, for some reason, it just fell. It wasn't on the edge or anything. It just decided it was just gonna hop off of the table that I had it onto a cart that I have. So that was the noise that you heard. Okay, maybe I got a guest in here with me. I don't know. But anyway, so we're going to get into change, right? And people often think that, well, let me back up just a bit and let me talk about change for myself. I have always been a very rigid person. I've always liked for things to remain the same in a certain order, at a certain time, in a certain way. And so change has been difficult for me at certain points in my life, and accepting change has been absolutely pulling teeth. All right, to put it mildly. I have not been the biggest proponent of change. I have not handled change well throughout my life at certain points. But as I've gotten older, I have began to embrace change and recognize the beauty in it. And I think that I shared this previously about when I knew that this surgery was going to happen. I knew that it was going to cause my business focus to shift because I would have such physical limitations, and I knew that it was going to cause a huge change, and trying to figure out how to manage that change caused a significant amount of anxiety for me. I didn't know how to do anything other than what I was accustomed to doing, which was doing something, moving. And so the blessing of my podcast has been that it gave me an outlet in spite of times where I was unable to move. So I'm going to go into why change is good, right? So One thing about change is that change teaches us to adapt, and it helps us develop resilience, right? But only if we have understood our own capacity for growth and learning, right? So when change does something for us and makes us better, it's because we've learned how to take challenges and adversity and turn them into our own advantages, and not just because change happens. Because let's be honest, one of life's constants is change. Change is constant in life. It's always going to happen, whether we like it or not. So we need to adapt to that. And so instead of looking at change as being a bad thing, or looking at things that happen as being, the end of the world, so to speak, if we see the growth in it, you can see the beauty in it. You can see how that can open up things for you. So, for example, during the pandemic, I lost my job. And I remember I really did enjoy my job. And when that happened, I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what I wanted to do with myself, because I'd gone to school for technology, and the only thing I knew is that if you go to school for something, that's what you're supposed to be doing. I didn't see the beauty in the change. And so I went through a period of questioning and depression and feeling like I was not enough. Feeling like, well, I couldn't have been enough if they chose to let me go. And I began to question everything about myself, everything about my worth, everything about my value, everything, even about my own intelligence. I began to question it all. Now, let's be clear, it wasn't just the job that caused that. There were also other mitigating factors, such as familial relationships or lack thereof. And so these things all come into play, and they all create this perfect storm for doubt and feeling like you're not worthy. And so this change, again, left me feeling like, what am I supposed to be doing with myself? I have no idea who I am outside of this. And I remember I was lying in bed, and my husband said to me, he says, well, what do you want to do? You have nothing but time on your hands now, and you have the opportunity to really reevaluate and figure out what makes you happy. Because although that was the job that I'd chosen, that wasn't what fueled my soul. That was not what made me happy. That was not what I woke up every single day on fire to do. So I knew that that wasn't what I was supposed to be doing, but I was doing it nonetheless because I felt like that was what I was supposed to do, until the change. So I began to I sat down. See, this is what I'm talking about right here, y'all. I sat down with myself, and I began asking myself a lot of questions. I began doing soul searching and becoming more self-aware, more than I ever had before. I adopted a spirit of gratitude, a practice of gratitude daily. That changed my life. It changed my life. It changed everything about me. It changed my family when I adopted that attitude of gratitude. I know that sounds so corny and cliche. But when I sat down and recognized that I needed to do some soul searching to figure out what it was that I wanted to do, this change brought about a change in me, and it helped me to realize that it was time to pivot. And I tried a little of this. I started a hair company, and I still do. I make custom wigs, and it was so fun. And I learned a whole new skill that I didn't even realize that I knew. I'd always done my own hair. I'd been doing my own hair for years, but it wasn't something that I really had thought of making a profession out of. But I had learned how to make wigs during pandemic, and so I began making wigs for others and selling them, because y'all all know we couldn't get to no salons and people still had to do Zoom meetings and all of this. And so I found that, and initially I thought that's what I was supposed to do, but then things changed again. And I realized that wasn't what I was supposed to be doing. Although it's a fun hobby and I love doing it, and I still do it. You know, I get custom requests and I'll make one for somebody, and it's a hobby now and I love doing it. It's fun, saves a lot of money, but that's not what I was supposed to do. I became, again, so engrossed in my own self-development and my yoga practice. I became more enmeshed in it, and I dove deeper into the practice of yoga. I needed to know what it was that I needed to do to really grow from the perspective of yoga, the perspective of balance, the perspective of really waking up and understanding and getting my own spiritual awakening. And when I became so enmeshed into my studies in my yoga and meditation practice, I chose to become licensed as a yoga instructor. And again, I'm thinking, okay, I found my passion. And now, mind you, I still love yoga, because yoga was something that I was practicing long before I considered becoming an instructor. It was something that I was practicing to help heal my own injuries. But it did not become a spiritual and an emotional thing for me until during pandemic, and it helped me to discover so many things. So again, we've got another change, and I'm thinking, hey, I found it, and to a degree, I did. I began helping others with their yoga practices, but there was still something missing. Time continued to change. I continued to change. I continued to grow and continued to find out and figure out who I was and what truly made me happy. I started this podcast in February of this year, 2022, and it has been the absolute joy for me. I started it because I'm such an introvert, and speaking has always made me very uncomfortable. However, I was always really good at it. I was an excellent writer when I was in school. And so I started the podcast, and it has been such a blessing to my life and fortunately to others' lives. And so the podcast then has become what has helped me during my healing. I've been able to take you all on this journey with me. I have been able to allow you all to see my struggles and to see what I am going through and hear what I am dealing with every single week that I am trying to heal, as well as take care of my family and continue my life. And that's where the biggest change came into play. During this time of stillness, where I have been still and been unable to be so physically active, it has helped me to get perspective and understand what's important and where I need to hone my energies. Now, I don't know if you have, really had a situation like this, but I'm sure you have. And so there are 10 reasons. I'm going to give you 10 reasons why change is important. So number 1, internal change will help you focus. So again, that goes back to what has happened to me on my journey. During my healing journey, I have changed internally, so it's helped me to hone my focus and figure out what is next for me. External change will shape you, again, the external things that have happened to me and that are continuing to happen to me have begun to shape me into who I am becoming, and the focus that is I have now for myself and for my business ventures and where I'm going forward. Change ensures that life stays exciting. Listen, nobody wants the same old humdrum daily grind without there being just a little something different. And it definitely does. My life has been more exciting, believe it or not, during these 5 weeks of sitting than it was when I was busy, sometimes doing nothing. Change leads to opportunity and experiences, and that is something that has opened up for me, and I have found out in a way that I can't wait to share it with you. I can't share it with you yet because it's still in the works. These opportunities and experiences are still in the works, but I am so excited. I cannot wait to share with you when these things finally come all together. Change also ensures that bad situations end. Sometimes when we're going through trials and tribulations, it feels like it's going to go on forever. This is never going to be over. But I can tell you from personal experience, when I was injured in 2020, I have been in pain. I had been in pain and suffering for so long, and it felt like it was never going to end. However, change helped that situation to end and for me to move into this next chapter of life. So remember that when it feels like whatever you're going through is never going to end, right? Change also helps you move on. And that's exactly what I was describing to you just a bit ago, that change helped me to continuously keep moving and get over the loss of the job, get over the change in my hair business, get over the change in my now yoga and meditation business, and move into this next chapter that I'm headed in. Change also means progress. I have progressed so much, and I'm sure so many of you have as well. My family has progressed, and I'm just watching all of these things happen, and it's such a pleasure to watch. Change also documents your journey, just as I have done here with this. This has been an amazing journey. And I thank you all so much for riding on this journey with me. You know, it has been truly one for the books, right? It's been an interesting journey. Now that I'm starting to feel a little bit better now, I am excited to start to get back into a little bit more visiting things that I have backed away from just a bit. You know, I had to give myself grace and allow myself time to heal. So I backed away from social media quite a bit. But now at this point in time, I'm starting to feel a bit better. So I will start to come back around just a little, so that I can start to share a little more of my journey with you. And you can get that chance to see the visual pieces of this journey, right? You know, I appreciate you all so much for tuning in, and I appreciate you following me on my journey. I appreciate all of the private messages and DMs and texts from those who have my personal number. I appreciate all the well wishes. I do. I appreciate you all so much. Now, I think that this is it for this episode. But just think about change when you begin to, feel like you're stuck. Realize change is coming. Try not to fight it. Try to go with it and see the potential in change. You want to give yourself that grace, right? I thank you all. I thank you all so much. And that's it for this episode of the Melanin Wellness Podcast. Again, thank you so much for joining me for your favorite drink. I hope you took something away from this. And in this episode, we discussed 10 reasons why change is good. Right? So join me next time when we will be discussing something else. I don't know. But I cannot wait to discuss it with you. Please don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. Leave me a rating and a review if this podcast bless you wherever you listen to your podcast. And visit my website, www.themelaninwellnesspodcast.com, to join the email list where you will find extra resources and more information. All the details and links from this episode can be found in the show notes. Thanks everyone for this episode, and I will see you next time. Until then, take care.